Today we're going to go over the 12 strikes or 12 angles of attack that we use in both Burukil, Alhambra, Arnis de mano, and Terra Firma FMA concepts. We'll go over the targeting, the different strikes that you can use from those angles because they're never written in stone. They are angles of attack after all, so they can go to multiple different targets. It's just from the location that the strike comes from. That's generic. So what we'll do is our number one strike. And remember that every different Filipino martial art has their own 12 strikes. So who's right and who's wrong is irrelevant. These are the 12 that we use. The number one strike is a strike from the drill that we use called Talbas Tubo. It is a horizontal strike to the temple. Can be to the jawbone, can be to the orbital bone, can be to the jaw, which will constitute a follow-up strike as that's not a finishing target. The nose, again, in need of a follow-up strike. So number two. Number two is the other side of Talbas Tubo. It's the other side, it mirrors the number one. So also, as the saying is on the other side, it goes to the same target group. The zygomatic arch or the cheekbone over here, the jawbone, the orbital bone by the eye over here, the head. So the number three strike is from our banda y banda, which will go to the midline over here. Your target's here. The floating rib is usually a better target than the actual ribs themselves because it's detached from the actual rib cage. And it's easier to break. Any kind of rib that you break is cause for a respiration problem, which makes it a good target. As we said, the floating rib is much easier. Hips I wouldn't recommend nearly as much. Thighs, it's going to be a stinger, but it's not going to finish anything. So the target you want to go to is right around here, right around the floating rib. If it happens to be that your opponent's arm is in, then you have a multitude of other targets. You've got the forearm, you've got the humerus here, where the humerus, the elbow, where the humerus meets the ulna and the radius. There's this little, what we call the funny bone. There's a nerve in there, the ulnar nerve. There's another target in there, your forearm, as we said. So you've got number three, that's your banda y banda. Number four is simply the other side of banda y banda. So you're going one, high, two, high, three, midline, four, midline. Number five is a sumka strike, a thrust. Okay? The targets for this area are the solar plexus, the sternum, anywhere in here along the line here that are going to cause some damage and cause your opponent to go down. Can this strike change from a straight in line to a rocking motion where you go up from your straight line in? Absolutely. Absolutely. So we've got number five, sumka, to the midline. Number six, sumka high. What are our targets on this line? We've got the brachial plexus over here. We've got the anterior deltoid. We've got the collarbone, which is another target. And remember, these are also transferable to knife. So you've got a multitude of different targets when we talk about knife because it's a penetrating weapon, not an impact or a concussive weapon. So you've got six. Seven is a mirror of that. We call this 5, 6, and 7 the upside down triangle. Okay? Because you're working 5, 6, 7. These strikes as well as number 5 can change the trajectory of where they're going. Right? Right now we've got a straight in strike. If you want to go to the eyes or the face, you can use this kind of strike as well. Right? All we're doing is changing the line of attack. We're not changing the angle at all. It's still coming from the same place, using the same motion, the same body mechanics. Okay, so you've got 6, 7, 8, we start our box, what we call our box. So whereas number 1 is a horizontal strike, number 8 is a diagonal strike. The targets remain relatively the same. You've got the frontal fontanelle or the temple over here. You've got the sphenoid bones and the orbital bones over here, the same targets that we talked about number 1. But because it's a slightly downward strike, you've also got various other targets. You've got the traps over here, you've got the collarbone, which can do a lot of damage, right? You've got the chest if he happens to be leaning back to try and avoid the strike, right? You've got the top of the head or the occipital lobe if he happens to be bending over. Okay, so you've got 8. We're going to work down the one side of the body and work up the other. That's why we call it the box. So you've got number 8 diagonal. Number 9 low to the knees. Remember your body mechanics when you're striking lower body. You do not want to lean down, right? You're going to drop your center of gravity to go along with the strike. Keeping your hand up all of the time, right? 9. 10 mirrors 9. It goes to the other side. So whereas this is going to your opponent's left leg, coming from your right side, this is the opposite. It's going to your opponent's right leg from your left side. It's a backhand. So 9, low, 10, to the other knee, right? The knee, we've got a multitude of targets. You've actually got the kneecap on the front, depending on the angle of how your opponent is standing. You've got outside the knee, which is a very susceptible place here as well. Okay? Any kind of damage to the side of the knee, and you're looking at potentially, depending on the impact and the amount of force, damaging the MCL. Right? If it doesn't take that much, you're still going to do a lot of damage because of the bone here. Okay? So you've got a multitude of targets here. If you're going even lower, you've got the ankle, which will incapacitate your opponent very quickly if you hit the ankle. If he's facing outward, right, you've got the shin bone as well. So you've got a multitude of targets here. Okay, everybody seems to forget that when they're teaching. If they go to one spot or just teach you the drill for the sake of doing the drill. Okay, to finish the box, we've got 8, 9, 10, and we've got 11 coming downward diagonal from the backhand position. Targets remain the same on the opposite side as they do on the first side that we did with 8. Okay, so 11. Okay, 12 is going to come up from the floor, right? Okay, so you've got 12. What is 12 hitting? Obviously the groin is a very valuable target. If he's leaning down, you've got the chin or the jawbone. You've got the chest, same targets as you had before, sternum and solar plexus. Right? You've got anywhere along the face that can do a lot of damage. If he's leaning back, you've got the same targets that applied before that we talked about. Right? You've got the groin, you've got the inguinal area. So this generates a lot of power coming up. So just as a quick review, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay? Perfect.